Well, yeah, actually, and you'll hear my accent, so try not to laugh too much. One guy told me, he said, I don't know if you're from Alabama or you're from Adelaide. So it's a hybrid bastard mixed accent. So yeah, originally I was from Alabama. So yeah, growing up in rural Alabama, up in the foothills of the Appalachians, I decided to join the Marine Corps at a late age of 6. So at 6 years old, I knew I was going in the Marines. I always had an interest in the military history. You know, my grandmother taught me how to read really when I was about 5 or 6. First book was a military book, and the seed was planted. So my whole, I guess, growing up, it was all about Marines. The one stage I was going, I think about Army. One stage I actually thought about flying an airplane when Baa Black Sheep came out in the 70s.
Okay.
And I said, "Oh, I'm going to be a fighter pilot," but I had to start wearing glasses a bit, and so I didn't do that. So yeah, it was always in the Marines. So 17 delayed entry program. I signed up a year before. My parents signed for me, and then I was going to go to Parris Island. So I graduated in June in Piedmont, Alabama. And then instead of going straight to Parris Island in June, I said, well, I'll delay it to about August. So I didn't want to be in Parris Island in June, July, and August. So I got the best of both worlds. It was real hot when I got there in August, but it cooled down. I graduated 1 November. Halloween was the night before. Anyway, graduated there. And I initially signed up for the barracks sea duty program they had at the time. So it was infantry, obviously, but guaranteed barracks sea duty. So I didn't know which one I would get. So after I went to the School of Infantry at Geiger, at that stage, there was no sea detachments going. So at that, I think you could only go on a battleship. No, sorry, it was carriers. The only place that had nukes. So that was obviously the barracks sea duty program is guarding nukes. That was what they did. You guarded special weapons or nuclear weapons. So there was no spots for sea duty. So I went to barracks duty. So I picked up Sigonella, Italy, which the Naval Air Station is Sigonella, Italy, Sicily was that. So I was there for about a year and a half. And when I was there, we had billets for scout snipers. Just some of the roles we had to do there in these special weapons. So as a PFC, as a PFC, I just turned Lance Corporal, I think, or in between. It was a hard slog. They sent me to Geiger, the Scout Sniper School. And that was hard because you can imagine just the land navigation skills, for example, that you gain in the School of Infantry isn't that much. You have a basic grounding. All of a sudden, you throw straight into Scout Sniper School, and it was hard. And I passed. And they sent me back, obviously, to the barracks duty. And then rotated to the fleet, went to 1-5. And I was in Stapleton 1-5 there, and I did a number of deployments. And then I decided to go on MSG duty, so Marine Security Guard duty, guarding embassies. And I was picked, volunteered, successfully made it through the program at Quantico. My first duty station was Havana, Cuba. So I must have did something very good or very bad in MSG school. So I went to Havana. And Havana, not Guantanamo Bay. I wish, because you could have got fresh fruits and vegetables there. But they sent me in the heart of Indian country, so to speak. So I was, myself and a detachment of about 8 of us in the old U.S. Embassy building, U.S. Central sections. So after that, then because I did a bad post, you get to do a good post. So coming out of Havana, they say you can really go anywhere you want in the world. So I was going where they speak English, and they're going where I could speak to a woman, because you had to be single in the program. And I'm definitely
really?
Okay. Yeah, you had to be single. Unless you were detachment commander, then you could be married. But all the watchstanders, as they called us, had to be single. And you signed a waiver to remain to be single. And if you married, you get in UCJ. It boots you out.
Oh, wow.
And then I said, well, they said you get 5 choices. I think of the 175 posts, maybe half was coming up at the time. And I said, well, they said, you're going to get your first pick really out of Havana, but pick 5. So I said, okay, where can I pick? I looked, the first one, it said Canberra, Australia. That's number 1, Australia. Hell yeah. young single Marine, Australia, number 1. 2, Wellington, New Zealand. Yep, I'm definitely going there. 3, Dublin, Ireland. Yep. 4, I've been to Munich before, so I picked Munich, Germany, and 5 was Stockholm, Sweden. So I was going to hit the jackpot somewhere.
Yeah,
anyway,
you had it covered, man.
So long story short, that's why I'm in Australia today. So I met Australian ex-wife, but yeah, because the last 2 weeks of the program you can marry, so you have to go through your spouse has to go through all these background checks and everything. But as soon as you marry in country, because you work for the Department of State, they become your spouse right then. So they become your spouse, all the benefits. So you get all the upload of all your, I think it's 4,000 pounds. And then she got paid to go to the States. So I went to Lejeune was my next duty station. So I went to 1-2. I tried to go back and stay 1-2, and they said, no, you're a sergeant now. And your primary MOS is 0331, which is machine gunner, as you guys know. Maybe the audience don't know. But I said, well, I don't want to, I've never been a machine gunner. I was only in infantry school. And they said, it doesn't matter. If you're a sergeant, we're going to throw you in the heavy guns. So I went to a cat platoon, heavy guns. Now became the basically platoon sergeant of heavy guns. And then at that stage, I'd been in 8 years from 85 to 93. I said, well, it's time to probably go back to Australia. Well, no, sorry. It's time to get out because, I was young and in love and I'd done the things I wanted to do. So it was time to next chapter of my life. So I went back to the place I grew up in Alabama. And I became a cop for 2 years. And then we decided to go back to Australia. So I loved Australia, and my wife was missing her family, and I thought, yeah, it's a great place. And yeah, I came back here in '95, and I've been here ever since.
So when did I guess let's get into the expertise and just the knowledge and digging into Guadalcanal. When did that start to kind of take its place with you within your life?
Yeah, so obviously, like I said before, I was a military history nut, so I knew about Guadalcanal. I'd read about it. I mean, I hadn't done a deep dive into it, but I knew all about it. And then obviously, going in the Marine Corps, as we know, they drill history into you left and right. And obviously, one of the things, and you guys would have remembered in boot camp, Guadalcanal would have popped up. And
first one.
Yeah. Guadalcanal. Then you hear about Guadalcanal and how the Navy abandoned us, and Puller, and the legends, and you got Basilone, and Page, and all the stuff, and hopefully we'll talk about today. And that was drilled into you. And then I was what my commander said, a prestigious reader, not frivolous. I forgot what he said. Prestigious reader of the commandant's military, the recommended reading list. You have to do that. I don't know if you still have to do it.
Oh yeah.
So I used to accumulate all kinds of those books, and Sam Griffin's Guadalcanal was on it. So I had a good understanding of Guadalcanal. I had a good background. And then coming to Australia, I was in the state police, and then I went to the federal police, Australian Federal Police. So I'm retired now. They had a program, the Australian Federal Police, where they'd rotate. At that stage, it was peacekeeping duties and operational peacekeeping duties in the Solomon Islands, because in 2003 they had a bit of I wouldn't say civil war, but there was unrest there. So the Australians sent a contingent in New Zealand and some participating Pacific Island nations, basically peacekeepers. So we had a contingent running in that area and maintained it. So I said, well, I'm definitely getting into that. One, I want to obviously go into operational deployment, plus 2, it's Guadalcanal. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So my first deployment was in 2009. I went for 4 months. At that stage, it was enough to kind of wet the whistle, to learn to walk the ground a bit, because I would do it on my spare time, and I was starting to take tours around, and the police and the military over there, because the police basically was embedded in the military, Australian Defence Forces. So we worked together, and in our spare times, I would run talks, and I would always come to like the subject matter expert over there. But I thought I knew a bit, and I started learning a bit after 4 months. But when I was over there, I met a guy called John Ennis, and John Ennis was an expat Australian And John had lived there for, I think, overall 20 years. He was a computer guy. But what John did, John had an interest in it. He didn't have a military background, but he had an interest in the Guadalcanal campaign. And John would run tours. And the biggest thing that John benefited from, a lot of these vets would come back, and John would take them on one-on-one personal tours. And they would talk John through their experiences. And they would actually, in some places, and I'm not kidding, they'd walk and they'd show the exact foxhole they were in. It was at the well preserved on the battlefield. Then John would go, kind of paint them a picture. As you guys know, I mean, from a private's point of view, you only see your little world and you know what the hell's going on in the bigger picture. Hell, you don't even know what's going on probably outside your company.
Right.
You know? And these guys, once they get there, they go, well, I don't know where, you know, and John will go, this is this, this is this. And they go, okay. And they start, you connect and they bring it down. They go, okay, well, that's my foxhole. And he had not just one occasion, a number of occasions. Or that's the ditch. See that ditch there? Yeah, well, that's the ditch that you know, one guy told me, told John, he says, well, when we landed, I was a far guy to the far left, and there was a small stream beside me. And they were talking. John said, stand by. Come on, walk with me. They walked down to this little shit ditch, John called, and there it was. And he goes, there's your ditch. And he goes, the guy started crying.
God.
But, you know, anyway, yeah, well, it's just emotional, as you guys know. It brought them back, reliving those the memories. So I walked around with John one-on-one for a while there because he came back on a trip. He'd retired there, and he came back. Me and him spent like almost 2 weeks together just, and walking the battlefield, and he was showing me some stuff. And then in 2010 and 11, I did short operational deployments. Because at that stage I was in like a full-time tactical team, the national tactical team for the AFP. So we'd come back and we'd do short deployments, doing jobs here and there. And then I hit the kind of the jackpot. At that stage in 2018, it had evolved from a peacekeeping role, the ADF, or the Defense Forces had left, and became an advisory role. So there's only a small contingent of us. And I was picked in 2018 to 2020 to go there for 2 years to be an advisor to the Royal Solomon Island Police Force. And my counterpart was the guy that ran the whole city and the police chief of the whole city. So, you know, I had my own troopy, you know, Toyota troopy. I had basically free reign. My job was to, you know, advise, but also I had a great commander over there, and he goes, you lead all the VIP tours, you know, for Guadalcanal. You know, I met I took the Prime Minister of Australia around, the U.S. Secretary or Undersecretary of Defense, and all these generals and stuff. But that was when I really had the deep dive into Guadalcanal. So what I would do, I'd go, okay, I'd read something, I'd go, let's just see, let's just really see, and I'd walk the ground, and I concentrate on the large engagements, but all these smaller engagements. And as you know, with your military training and your background, if the ground hasn't changed, and the ground really hadn't changed in 80 years. So if you look at something, you go, well, if I'm going to put a machine gun here in 1942, I'm looking at the terrain, the tactics really hadn't changed. It'd be the same in 2022. And you read something, you can tell I always tell when an author has never been to Guadalcanal, or maybe been to Guadalcanal 1 week or 2 weeks, and they haven't really walked the ground, or they looked at a hill from a map or a photo, and you go, oh, no, that can't be. And because of that, it gave me a good, I guess, background, a good appreciation of what these guys went through, or what, when they were attacking, defending, moving, obstacles, things like that. And now I could read the ground and work things out. And I go, well, that couldn't happen that way. And then my background of almost 30 years of investigating training, you know, being that's investigator. Now I'm retired. I'm still got a job, and I'm an investigator for the state government now. But I look at it like a criminal brief of evidence when I'm putting facts together. You know, okay, I got a witness statement here. That's good. But, you know, I could put all three of us in a room, something happens, and you get three different accounts.
Oh, yeah.
And we could take it the next day, and you know, much less
still be different.
Trying to do it 40 years from now, 30 years from now. And, you know, you guys say, when were you in Iraq? 20 years ago? 15, 20? 30.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost
20 now.
Yeah. So just imagine another 10 or 15 years from now, or 20 years from now, someone goes back and go, okay, what happened? Yeah, it's going to be a bit foggy. And plus, also, as we know, with stress and time slows up, time speeds up, and it's all these different factors. And then you got to take that. Then you take the official reports. Then I crack into the Japanese records, and you can just go put them all together, and it's like a brief of evidence of what I tried to do. Any piece of information I put out there, I try to support it. And if I can't support it, I really won't use it.
Right.
I can't, corroborate it or support it. And I try to go on a balance of probability and the weight of my evidence, so to speak. But yeah, so that's how I got an interest in Guadalcanal. And then when I left in 2020, I'd established a Facebook and a YouTube page where I walked the battlefield. My intent was to take me and the viewer on a battlefield. Just someone said one time my channel is like history with no frills. And I say, yeah, that's what you get, no frills. You get no bells, whistles, you get nothing like that. The main reason, because I'm shit with technology. That's probably why. But it sounds good. I mean, if you want like entertainment from my videos, it's not, unless you really get off from seeing a guy walking through the jungle with someone else. But if you really want to know about that battlefield, you walk with me and then I'll take you through. But a spinoff from that was my Facebook page. And my wife actually told me, she goes, do this Facebook page. I said, well, I don't have time for a Facebook page. I want to do YouTube. But now it's kind of flipped where I spend a lot of time on my Facebook page, which has got a lot of traction. I think I've 32,000 followers. And I'm on it every day. I think I post once, at least, or twice a day, I know. And I'm very interactive with the people. But because of that, it's really built my knowledge of Guadalcanal. And I've gained all these resources. And when Mr. Anderson, when John passed away, his family let me be the caretaker. He had a private collection, a large private collection of Guadalcanal material, a lot of firsthand reports, accounts that he collected over the years. So I inherited it. I don't say I have it. I inherited the caretaker. I'm the caretaker of his collection. So I went through that, and then I'm always accumulating Guadalcanal material. I mean, I've got these are all Guadalcanal books. I've got 104.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
I've got 104. It goes that way. I let my kids have about that much. No, I think one shelf for books. I told them I'd buy them more books, but they look at their iPads. But yeah, but I'm really maintaining a focus on Guadalcanal. And then now that people just reach out to me, and I got authors, I've got universities, got people to reach out to me all the time to provide them information and to assist them. So I'm definitely a Guadalcanal geek.